Welcome to our movie recap. Today I'm going to show you a biblical epic film called Exodus: Gods and Kings. After learning of his true lineage, Moses, a former general, rises against Pharaoh Ramesses II to help the Hebrews escape from Egypt. He faces several challenges and is strongly opposed by Ramesses. Spoilers ahead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The movie begins when the Pharaoh, Seti I, and his subordinates meet regarding their enemy's arrival within their borders. The Pharaoh asks the high priestess to check the entrails, so she obliges. The priestess picks up the knife, stabs the duck in its stomach at her ritual table, and retrieves the intestine outside to see what the omen says. After burning the organ, the Chantress utters the message that a person will be saved in the war and soon become a leader. She warns them of the prophecy, as it will either be the general of the Egyptian royal family, Moses, or Prince Ramesses, as they are in charge of the attack that will overthrow the Hittites at Kadesh. After the ritual, Moses and Ramesses prepare before the deployment. Seti I gives Moses the prince's sword, and Ramesses receives Moses, as it will set as a reminder of their brotherhood and protect each other at all cost. Seti I sends these boys out of the palace where the Egyptian soldiers await. Upon exiting, Ramesses and Moses ride a different carriage to deliver them to Kadesh, as their troops follow their lead. Arriving near Kadesh, Ramesses orders Commander Keon regarding the division of their battalion on the battleground. Ramesses takes over the generalship and the distribution of forces in different directions to ensure the effectiveness of their attack. The community of Hittites does their routine as a tribe. There are people busy butchering animals for their food, a blacksmith who is responsible for creating their swords, and their leaders enjoying their meal in the comfort of their house. Suddenly, a panicking Hittite soldier quickly approaches their tribe to alert everyone of the arrival of Egyptian soldiers who are about to attack their place. The Hittites immediately prepare as soldiers collect their shields, horses, swords, and spears, which they can use to fight their enemies. Arriving near the Hittites' territory, Ramesses signals his men to launch an attack synchronously. They shower the Hittites with arrows as it targets numerous Hittite fighters at once. The arrows pierce their chest and even their horses, which immediately brought their fighters down. Another wave of arrows has been thrown before the troop of Egyptian soldiers collides with the human shield created by the Hittites. The encounter between the Hittites and the Egyptians has become bloody violent. The swooshing sound of metals colliding and the screams of unbearable pain when someone gets hit by a sword or a spear envelop the area. On the other hand, Ramesses falls on his ride when it crashes on an arriving carriage. A Hittite soldier takes this chance to attack Ramesses, but Moses uses a spear to save his comrade from being hit. When the encounter becomes more dangerous for both parties, Moses orders his men to retreat and bring Ramesses. When Moses finds another carriage he can occupy, he rides it as they abandon Kadesh. While they are on their way to escape, they leave most of their men battling against the Hittites. Upon their arrival in Memphis, the people welcome them with enthusiasm and cheer as they celebrate the return of Moses and company. Seti I summons Moses to report their encounters with the Hittites. Moses never bothers to report what has happened, but he spills that he saves Ramesses' life. Seti I thanked Moses for his deed and told him that he was more capable of leading the kingdom instead of Ramesses. Seti I, Moses, and Ramesses listen to what seems to be a lecture regarding their enemies. Seti I stops the speaker and asks Ramesses to rephrase the man's claims, but Ramesses shrugs his shoulders. The priest takes over and delivers his speech as he informs the king regarding the situation and enslaved people in Patam. Instead, Seti I sends Ramesses to Patam to meet the viceroy and check the happenings in the area. Ramesses seems hesitant with his father's orders, but he has no choice but to oblige. Moses goes to Patam only to witness the situation of the enslaved people and the ruling the viceroy has been exercising. Moses witnesses how enslaved people work in creating pyramids and a castle, which gives comfort to the ruler to keep his spirits up during his service. Upon meeting the viceroy Hijab, Moses questions what kind of ruling he does in Patam. But Viceroy Hijab demands troops to maintain order and control over their slaves, but Moses never likes his idea. Moses invites Hijab to meet the people to debunk his precarious theory, but the latter declines. Moses roams around Patam's vicinity to assess the situation of the slaves. He witnesses how hard-working the Hebrews were in building statues and infrastructures within the area. Moses also sees a man, Joshua, being whipped by a guard, so he meddles and stops him from being punished. For further checking, Moses asks his men to group the elders he suspects would cause rebellion in the future. When he converses with one of the slaves, he meets Nun, the elder with whom he had a conversation regarding religion in Canaan. Moses asks one of his soldiers to collect the names of these aged people as they might use them for future purposes. When Moses leaves, he is stopped by Joshua to deliver the message to Nun. He asks him to meet him at the prayer house at night. Going back to the palace, Moses confronts Hijab regarding his management activities in Pithom. Moses demands to check the report records regarding the projects and rulings he has implemented. Moses frankly tells Hijab to stop living and acting like royalty, as he is not the king of Egypt. After belittling Hijab, Moses leaves to meet the elders in the prayer house. When Moses arrives in the prayer house, Nun asks him if he can send his guards outside. Nun starts narrating the prophecy they have had before, and tells Moses about his background and origin. Moses gets mad upon hearing Nun's stories, so he decides to leave. Nun stops him from leaving, and Moses orders the other elders to leave the prayer house. Nun continues narrating how Moses reached the territory of Memphis, and how he became affiliated with the royalties. Moses never believes Nun's words, so he leaves the place, bringing the confusion and irritation running down through his system. When Moses leaves the prayer house, spies from the prayer house label him as a traitor, so he stabs the 2 guards down. But there are 2 Hebrews who eavesdrop, so they report what they have heard from Nun and Moses' conversation. Returning to Memphis, Moses sees that physicians and attendants surround the Pharaoh. Despite Seti's situation, he orders Moses to deliver his report regarding Tahom. Moses reveals Hijab's doings in Tahom, but Seti seeks more. Seti knows that Moses discovers something in his expedition in Tom, which bothers him a lot, but the boy never confesses. What confuses him. Days later, Seti passed away, and his child Ramses, his successor, performed the burial ceremony to send off his father's mummified body. Ramses takes over his father's throne. One day, Ramses, Moses, and the advisors and generals discuss the king's plans. Hijab arrives to deliver a message to the king. With Hijab's request to leave them alone, Ramses asks everyone to evacuate the room quickly. Hijab reported the information to Ramses regarding Moses' real identity. When Hijab leaves, Ramses and Moses have a confrontation about the latter's real identity. Ramses summons Bithia and Miriam to reveal the truth, but they both denied. Ramses uses Miriam, the alleged sister of Moses, and threatens to cut his arm if he spills false information. Upon knowing Moses' identity, Ramses sends him to jail. His mother then orders Moses to be killed, but he is sent to exile. On Moses' departure, he pleads with the guard to let him talk to Bithia and Miriam. In this short conversation, Miriam confesses that all the allegations regarding his true identity are factual. Miriam gives Moses the bracelet she removed from his hand when he was a child. To protect Moses' struggles to survive in the desert, he finds his sword hidden in the cloth on the horse's back. Moses decides to stop when his horse dies, as he has no food and water that it can eat. While resting, 2 enemies arrive. They try killing him with their swords, but Moses does the other way around. Moses continues his journey by traveling across the desert until he reaches the Red Sea. He sees a group of women retrieving water when men bringing their goats dominate them. Moses strides in their direction to overthrow this man as he shows them his sword. Men start to back off and send their goats away from the water pump. Zipporah invites Moses to their community to eat and rest. But Zipporah's father, Jethro, interrogates Moses, which he respectfully declines. Instead of a temporary stay, Moses and Zipporah develop a romantic relationship, leading them to marriage. 9 years later, Ramses orders his men to build his tomb and palace. Many enslaved people worked around Memphis to establish the pharaoh's desires. He demands his men to create this huge project quickly, disregarding the problems they might encounter in doing so. Moses plays with his son Malak as they converse regarding God's mountain. Moses never believed in such superstitious beings, so he confused his kid. However, Gershom asks his mother Zipporah regarding his father's claims, which leads her to confront Moses while he takes care of the herd of goats and sheep. Moses, being a herdsman, follows where his sheep go despite the heavy rain that hinders him from climbing. The sheep climb the forbidden mountain, so he follows them wherever they go. Suddenly, a landslide happens. The rushing of mud and rocks knocks Moses off the ground and then loses consciousness. Hours later, Moses wakes up as the dirt buries him. He hears someone calling his name as he sees something that seems to be burning a few meters away from him. Seconds later, a child, Malak, talks to him and asks him to become a general to fight for his people. Moses wakes up while Zipporah attends to his needs. Moses narrates what he had witnessed in the mountain before being hit by the storm. Moses tells Zipporah about God as he tries looking for Malak. Zipporah never believes Moses' words as he labels his claims as a delusional effect of his accident. Moses takes this chance to confess his real identity to his wife, which he has hidden for years, but Zipporah disregards him and tells him to rest. While Moses bonds with Gershom, he sees the rocks positioned akin to Malak's creation, and his face as Gershom's. Moses immediately picks up his son and brings him to their house. The appearance of Malak makes Moses realize he needs to go back to Memphis. So he prepares his horse and sword that he will use on his journey. Before Moses leaves, he asks Gershom and Zipporah's permission, but both get mad at him for his decision. With Moses' arrival in Tom, he sees slaves getting burned day and night. He looks for the prayer house where he sees Nun and Joshua, Aaron, his brother, and some people who seem to be his relatives. After thorough planning, Moses chooses to visit Ramesses in his palace to express his suggestions. When Ramesses visits the stable, Moses takes this chance to talk to him. Moses, who was once an atheist, now believes in God and tells the orders he received to Ramesses. After stating what Moses needs from Ramesses, he rides his stallion to escape. Ramesses is astonished by Moses' arrival in his palace. He orders his men to terminate Moses and his family to defy the prophecy and eliminate the feeling of being threatened. Egyptian soldiers deployed to eliminate Moses and his kind. They attacked Patam to locate Moses, but no one pointed out his whereabouts. Ramesses chooses to eliminate the family members of slaves till Moses appears. This move pushes slaves to join the army who will fight Ramesses and his soldiers. The persecution continues, which inspires the slaves to eliminate Ramesses in humane treatment of them. Moses leads the slaves into training to prepare for their future encounters. Moses teaches them how to aim accurately with their bows and kill their enemies with their arrows. Moses encouraged them to eliminate the Egyptian resources needed to survive and accomplish their endeavors. They sneakily plot their plan as they spill oil around the area to set an arson. At the same time, they take this chance to attack the Egyptians as they turn the city into ashes. Moses talks to Malak regarding the next move they must imply to stop the slavery that Egyptians have done to his people. Malak suggests letting Moses watch how the Egyptian will face right in front of him. Animals start attacking humans, such as the crocodiles preying on Egyptians on their voyage. The life-giving Nile River turns bloody as the fishes die and frogs start to appear, almost occupying the palace and the whole of Memphis. Then millions of insects started destroying their food and pestered Egyptians with their daily life. The crisis with the arrival of millions of flies brings skin diseases to people. No one gets immunity from this punishment, even Ramesses and his wife. More insects arrive in Egypt, which allows people to experience hunger as the appearance of millions of insects ruins their crops. It pushed people to steal from the palace, which angers Ramesses. He orders his men to kill those who stole from their storage room by showering them with arrows upon exiting the establishment. Ramesses prays to the God he believes in when he feels strange in his surroundings. Believing it is Moses, he exclaims his anger as he challenges the God that Moses talks about. Ramesses threatens to kill every Hebrew child and drown them in the Nile River. He expresses his firm stance in fighting Moses and his God, believing he is above any living or supernatural being. Malak tells him that Moses should acknowledge the sufferance of those people who have suffered at the hands of pharaohs. Malak expresses his anger towards the injustices the Hebrews have experienced as he wishes to see Ramesses the Great beg on his knees to stop what the real God shows them. When Moses can no longer listen to Malak's remarks, he chooses to leave, but darkness suddenly leaves their sight as the light embraces the place. Moses goes to Ramesses' palace to send his warning regarding the announcement he has to make before sunset. If Ramesses do not submit, Moses can no longer ensure the safety of the citizens, as it is beyond his control. Moses reminds Ramesses to protect his child if he does not follow his words. The latter fears it threatens his child's safety. Moses goes to the place where his allies live. He orders to kill a lamb and mark their doors using the animal's blood to keep them safe from the deluge that might happen. The people who believe in Moses slaughter their lambs, collect the blood and spread it through their doors and doorposts. At the same time, Ramesses feels nervous regarding Moses' warning. As darkness covers the place, the Egyptian children slowly lose their breath once it passes through their bodies. The next day, Egyptians headed by Ramesses go to Moses to show his dead child. Moses confronts Ramesses regarding his God. He is a killer of children. Moses tells Ramesses that no Hebrew child died last night, which Ramesses cannot accept. He asks the Hebrews to leave Egypt. Ramesses and his wife mourn his son's death. Ramesses decides to follow the Hebrews to kill them all to avenge his son's death. Meanwhile, Moses allows the Hebrews to rest for a while before continuing their journey to reach the sea. Aaron asks his brother regarding his decision whether to take the strait or the mountains, but Moses prefers the highlands to stop the chariots from following them quickly. Moses asks for Malak's help when he finds it hard to locate their destination, but he refuses to assist them. Moses signals them to continue crossing the mountains. Ramesses' group finds traces of where the Hebrews crossed the mountain to escape. Moses knows he lost their way to the strait upon reaching the sea. He becomes frustrated as he can no longer identify which direction they should take to save themselves from being killed. He throws his sword into the sea to express his anger. There is an almost confrontation between the slaves and the Egyptians. Khan sees the deluge arriving at their destination. Khan orders their men to retreat and go in the opposite direction to save themselves, but Ramesses continue. Moses warns Ramesses to go back as the opposite direction to save themselves, but Ramesses continue. Moses warns Ramesses to go back as the outrageous waterway pause. The story of Moses and Aaron's confrontation with Pharaoh in the Exodus. A Cry for Freedom imparts several key lessons. Firstly, it highlights the immense courage required to challenge authority and fight for justice. Moses and Aaron's determination to secure freedom for the Israelites despite Pharaoh's power teaches the importance of standing firm against oppression. Secondly, the film underscores the role of faith and obedience. The prophet's unwavering belief in God's commands demonstrates how faith can provide strength in challenging circumstances. Their persistence, despite repeated rejections, illustrates the value of perseverance in the pursuit of noble goals. Pharaoh's eventual downfall due to his hard-heartedness serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of pride and stubbornness. Lastly, the narrative emphasizes the essential human right to freedom and the belief that, ultimately, justice will prevail, reinforcing that righteousness and divine justice will triumph over injustice and tyranny.